Do things that don't scale. 10 of them.
These tactics, these words, are some of the most important ever written for people building products. You probably know Paul Graham as the founder of Y Combinator. He has guided hundreds of startups to success. Paul Graham is best known, though, for making Sing-Along Center possible. That was, of course, my first data entry job in the 90s and my parents' online karaoke store. The store was hosted on ViaWeb, a platform co-founded by Paul Graham, which he later sold to Yahoo. It was the first software as a service business. Let's break down this famous essay, all 10 parts of it, starting at the beginning, why Paul Graham thinks all this will make or break you. Startups rarely take off on their own. They usually need an initial push. Graham compares it to old cars. You had to hand crank them to start them. Once they got going, they kept going with ease and speed, but there was a separate, laborious, totally inefficient process to start them. To get your product moving, first, do things that don't scale. 10 things. 1. Recruit users manually, aggressively. At YC, they call this the Collison installation. Most people are too shy or lazy to recruit individual users for their product.
I'll just send him a link.
The Collison brothers would say, "Do you want to try Stripe?"
Maybe.
Let me see your laptop.
Hey!
Okay, it's installed now. Don't think of her as one new user. It's a snowball effect. Users grow users. If a startup is growing users at 10% per week, that single user will turn into 142 users in just 1 year. Huh? Yes. Compound growth is wild, but it needs to start somewhere. 2. Fragile. Young products are fragile, like a baby, accept it.
The worst thing you can do is dismiss your product because you compare it to large established products. It's not. It's a fragile infant product.
So when the co-founders of Airbnb were physically taking pictures of their first hosts' apartments, they weren't wasting time. They were nurturing a small group of New Yorkers on how to become successful hosts so that the rest of the world could see how it's done with damn fine looking apartments. You can't just copy and paste their business model without understanding that it was fragile and that they had to crawl before charging me $400 for cleaning fees, and that's after they made me take out the trash. 3. Delight customers.
Long before Wufoo was acquired by SurveyMonkey, they were sending handwritten notes to customers. It was time-intensive, thoughtful, personal, and magical.
Now, the magic's over. You get fake handwritten letters all the time. But that's not the point. You should be racking your brains to think of new ways to delight them.
But what happens when I have too many delighted customers and I can't possibly write to them all?
Well, it scales better than you think because it creates a cultural mindset where you will find new ways to delight customers when you do scale. 4. Experience. Give a great one. Look at this beautiful Mac Studio. The design, the materials, even the box is executed to a standard that was once considered pathological. The product is great from an established company. Your early product is not and should not be great. You want to get your product to users early, and that usually means buggy and incomplete. And if the product's not great, you make up for it with a great experience. This isn't about UX, it's more about being as helpful as possible.
You over-engage and are attentive to help customers solve their problems. Sorry, that's a bug. Press F3. All fixed. Wow, this is a bad product, but a great experience. Thank you. I just wish it was in dark mode.
Delivering a great experience means you'll get greater feedback to build a product that the customer actually wants with dark mode. 5. Fire, start with Kindle. Sometimes you want to start with a narrow market before you add more logs. Facebook did this with Harvard. The students felt like it was specifically for them, and like Kindling, it was much easier to start than, say, first convincing your aunt to stream her political views to the world. Pinterest started with design bloggers, Amazon started with books. It's always worth asking if there's a subset of the market in which you can get a critical mass of users quickly. And of course, I love this as a product manager because it validates the product before you scale, which brings us to 6. Pull a Meraki. So most new hardware companies design a prototype and then pay a factory to make a minimum order, which is usually gigantic. You don't just start building routers yourself because per unit it's too expensive. It doesn't scale. But that's exactly what Meraki did. Meraki built their own routers, and volunteers placed them on roofs around San Francisco to create a next generation of mesh networks. San Franciscans got the dream of free internet, and Meraki got an experimental playground of real-life user problems, interferences, hills, buildings, fog. And Meraki could rapidly test software and hardware solutions in ways that they never could have if they weren't their own tiny, expensive little factory doing things that don't scale. The lesson here is to provide people with a vision of hope and then sell the proven vision to Cisco for $1 billion and shut down the free internet dream. No, I'm only kidding. No, they sold it for $1.2 billion. 7. Consult, but for free. When Paul Graham first launched ViaWeb, he would ask, hey, you want to make an online store? And people would say,
this is 1995. The internet is stupid. The mall is rad. Oh, I hated that. No, please don't use that. But my parents' mall store was ahead of its time.
So Paul would use his own platform to build people websites for free. It was free consulting and wildly unscalable in 1995. But it was during that time of trying to make the perfect website for individual stores that he added in features that would later become valuable to other stores, such as the greatest Filipino karaoke store ever made. And that's why Yahoo paid Paul Graham millions for his platform. 8. Do things manually for as long as possible. When Stripe first delivered instant merchant accounts, founders manually signed up companies behind the curtain.
People waste a lot of time building solutions that don't solve problems. So do it the manual way until you figure out the right solution to build.
And I'd give a slight update. Today, we have more options than doing everything manual. I always ask clients,
hey, Collison Bros, is there a no-code app or plugin that we could use to help users get started? Now there is. It's not 2010 anymore. And that makes it even easier to validate ideas before building custom solutions.
9. Avoid the big launch.
Some founders want to launch on a Tuesday with 8 publications and partnerships. They push the launch button and their rocket flies away. Except it usually doesn't.
You don't need a million people to tell you that your product sucks. A few will do just fine. The product development process doesn't have a finish line. After launch, you immediately take your learnings back to the start to improve the product. It's a feedback loop, not a finish line. And it's easier to fix a few user problems than a few million. 10. You need to think of products as vectors. Paul Graham says, don't think of startups as scalars. They're more like vectors. You know what I mean? No? No. Scalars are one-dimensional. Vectors live in 2 or 3 dimensions, and so can your product. There's the direction of the product that you want to build at scale, and at the same time, there's all the hard things that you need to do first that won't scale with your product. All those hard lessons become part of your DNA. The lessons you learn from doing things that don't scale, everything that we just talked about, they will guide you toward a final product that you and your customers love. A product that can scale. You got this.